Yo guys, it's JJ here, and today I'm going to be walking you through how to make a hard Detroit beat. But before we get into the video, guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Really pushing for that 1.5k and especially that 2k for the end of the year. I really do appreciate all the support you guys have shown, and because of that, I've got a bunch of free drum kits for you guys, linked below, all for free on me. And if you go to my Instagram as well, I've got a new drum kit which I've just dropped, so make sure to show some love, and let's just get into the video. So, first thing you need to know about Detroit beats, a lot of them are very high BPM range, usually found like in the 160s to 200 BPM to be honest, but I'm doing this at 180 BPM, and the scale of choosing is in the C sharp minor, but this does change later on in the video. So for the first sound, I've got myself an instance of Analog Lab 5 using a sound called the Poly Analog Pluck. And when it comes to Detroit beats, it's very important that I say the main melody would consist usually of a piano or a pluck or some type of nice hard hitting synth. But to break down the pattern, as we can see, it is very simple and straightforward. It's a nice, catchy, repetitive melody, which is what we want for these Detroit beats. And all we have to do is look at this little first section here in this first beat. And all these notes that have been highlighted are actually a semitone apart within a scale, giving it a very nice dark feel, which is what we want for these Detroit beats. And of course, making use of that root note in the C sharp. Then all I did was copy and paste it 7 more times to make this full 8 bar. I clicked Alt R to activate my randomizer and then play with the velocity wheel to randomize my velocities, giving it a more human touch. And it's that simple. So this is what the main melody for the beat sounds like. And for the effects, I've kept it very simple again, using an EQ cutting off my lows and ducking and increasing frequencies I was a fan and not a fan of. And on top of that, I used some Valhalla vintage verb just to create some ambience and add some reverb. And last but not least, looking at stereo separation, I did it around 30% just to widen the mix in your headphones. Next up within the beat, I got myself an instance of the bell preset, and this is from my kit of course, so go grab that. And all I do is place it at the start of every 4 bar, just to add a nice hard hitting bell because they really go well over Detroit beats. And this is what it sounds like. And there we have it. Very nice, subtle, but really just adds a lot of, oomph to the beat. As for the bell, all I did for the effects was start off with an EQ again, cutting off some lows and some highs. Then another instance of Valhalla vintage verb because we want that reverb in it. And last but not least, I stereo separated the bell 100% just to really widen it in your headphones and add a bit of an oomph to every time it hits. And next up, we got ourselves an instance of Purity using the Pure Soul Res preset, which comes from the synth bass bank. But guys, if you do not have this sound, you will very much be able to find something like this in Expand 2. And if I'm not mistaken, it's in GMS, the free plugin within FL Studio. So go ahead and use the sound. And as you can see from the pattern, it doesn't follow the root note because I wanted to change it up a bit, give it a bit more character, a nice little dark feel. So I took it down to the A and then into a G sharp at the end over here. But without further ado, this is what the Detroit bass sounds like. And there we have it. And from what you can hear, this bass is very common within Detroit beats, so I really recommend using it. Very nice sound and super dope. And then next up, I got myself an instance of Analog Lab 5, again, using a pad preset called the Wannabe. And as we can see here, very nice and simple and repetitive pattern yet again, very important for these beats. First of all, starting with a C sharp, climbing into this D sharp and then into an E, again, giving that tension, and then making use of that G sharp at the very end, again, notes 1 semitone apart, creating tension. Then I just repeat it 1 and 2 more times, but at the end, for some variation, instead of taking it up to the G sharp, I take it down back into that nice little D sharp, giving it a bit of variation. And without further ado, this is what the high pitch sounds. And without further ado, this is what the counter melody to the Detroit beat sounds like. As for the effect, got a simple EQ again, cutting off my frequencies. Then some Soothe 2 to act as a compressor. And last but not least, a Valhalla Vintage Verb just to add some ambience. And then looking at the stereo separation, I did it at 50% just to widen it within your headphones and create a nice little bit of space between all the melodies. And to wrap up this sample, the final thing I did was get myself an instance of Contact 7 using the band called Acquire Essentials, but I'm using the preset called The Woman Performance. And looking at the pattern, it is very simple again. Pretty much copy and pasting this 4-bar here to make it full 8. And to break down the 4-bar, it's essentially just a root note of C sharp alongside the E up here, and then the D sharp at the very end down here before the 4-bar ends, just to bring it back into the next 4. As for the effects on Acquire, yes again I am using a bass and then a fair amount of reverb for Valhalla Vintage Verb just to add some ambience to the sound. And then guys, last but not least, I actually rendered out the whole sample, and what I did after that was go into the pitch wheel and take it down 3 semitones, so the sample has now been converted from a C sharp minor down to an A sharp minor. And without further ado, this is what the full sample sounds like. And now guys, after showing you the full sample, it's time to move on to the drums. And to start off, we got ourselves a nice simple Lex Luger slap clap pattern, which we all know and love. And then for the hi-hats, I actually kept it quite simple, just leaving it as a basic 2-step pattern because it really does the job nicely for these beats. So without further ado, this is what the clap and the hi-hats from my kit sound like. And now it's time to move into the 808s and the kick. But to begin off with the 808s, as we can see from the pattern, I am keeping it in the A sharp note, and I am not changing it like the bass line because I wanted to give a bit more of an oomph for when the 808s hit, so keeping it at a constant root note. And the pattern is simple, which of course just repeats itself every 2 bars, we can see over here. And then the thing I did for the 808 was max my velocities out. And the way you can do that is by clicking Control A, highlighting all your notes. Then it's grabbing that mouse, clicking that scroller wheel down, and then pushing it all the way to the top, as we can see, maxing the velocities out for your 808. But I recommend doing this for your kick as well. And the reason I emphasize this in every video is because it makes your 808s and your kicks so much harder, really hits there, and it makes a massive difference in your mix. And looking at the kick pattern, I am using the bow kick for my kit. Very simple and straightforward again, following the 808 pattern, but then again, providing that extra bit of oomph. So without further ado, this is what the 808 and the kick sound like. And now guys, we're going to be coming into the perks and the open hats, so we're going to be running through quite a few. But to first start off, we got ourselves a nice little perk called a Luger perk. Have it playing with a nice little roll at the end of every 4-bar, and it sounds like this. Next up, we got ourselves a nice perk called the Runner Fade perk. I place it at the start of every 4-bar, as we can see over here, and it sounds like this. Pretty nice perk, we hear it a lot in Detroit beats. Then I got myself my final perk called a Tick perk. It occurs at the end of every 4-bar over here. Nice little kind of roll. That's what it sounds like. And then last but not least, this nice little open hat, which repeats every 2-bar. And now without further ado, this is what the full Detroit beat sounds like. And there we have it guys, but before I wrap up this video, let me just walk you through the beat structure of the whole thing. And now to break this down, it is pretty straightforward, beginning off with this nice little 60-bar intro. I first begin the 8-bar here with the main melody, that's synth, alongside the bass. But then coming to the second 8-bar, I introduce the bell, I have my tag, and I introduce this nice little Love Fruity filter, just to give it a nice little bit of variation for the intro. But now we're coming into the chorus, which is a total of 2 8-bars long. So I have the main bass and the main melody playing, alongside these essential drums and a few of the perk. But then for the second 8-bar, I introduce that nice little high. But then for the second 8-bar, I introduce that nice high top counter melody, alongside the bell and the open hat and another perk. But then coming into the verse section, I do have nice. And then coming into the verse section, I got myself 3 8-bars for the verse. First of all, beginning with the main melody alongside the bell, playing with all these essential drums and then introducing that 808, removing that bass. Then for the second 8-bar, I introduced a nice little choir sample going on, which wasn't played before, so a nice little bit of variation in the beat. But then I have introduced a nice little perk alongside another one, alongside a classic open hat. Last but not least, for the final 8-bar, I got myself the main melody alongside the bass and that nice little high top playing. Then introducing that kick and clap halfway through just to build up back into the chorus. And then I copy and paste my chorus hits again, as you can see. And then I copy and paste my verse again. And then last but not least, the final chorus yet again. But I do introduce that nice little high top. But then I do introduce that nice choir sample that was not there before for the chorus, just for that last bit of variation, really giving it a grand finale. And there we have it, guys. You have made it to the end of the video. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe yet again, on the way to 2,000 subs, really pushing it this year. And then, of course, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.